So I was looking at LinkedIn today and I was seeing what happened to all my old schoolmates. That is, the people I went to university and high school with. And I just kind of was curious, did they become hobos? What the heck is it that they're doing? So as I was kind of going through it, I just saw one after another executive director of senior director, senior manager. I managed a team that oversaw like hundreds of millions of dollars of blank, all that sort of thing. And I have a bit of an inferiority complex. I'm like, geez, I guess I'm a loser. What the hell did I do with my life compared to these guys? And then as I kind of like started to think about it, I started to think back to where I work now and where I've worked in the past and all the jobs I've applied to. And this is just something for you if you ever like meet someone, they're like, oh, I'm senior director of such and such, or I'm whatever executive. In 90% of cases, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It doesn't actually really mean anything. Title inflation is it's kind of like what happened back in France and I think the Holy Roman Empire and a couple other places where initially like titles like if you were a count you were really high, but then people kept bribing the monarch and they made more and more counts and things just got watered down. Like in India, I think like all the rajas just started calling themselves maharajas, stuff like that. So you had this issue with title inflation. And we have that here too. So it's kind of an easy way to try to raise employee morale without actually paying people more money. And I don't think there's necessarily a one to one relationship between what the title means and what they actually do. And a number of places where I've worked, you have a scenario where a majority of the department is management. That is, you'll have like at one place I worked, there was three managers for every two employees. So like a majority of the company or the majority of the department was management. And kind of the management but tried to avoid doing any of the stuff the employees did because they thought it was beneath them. But ultimately, they still had to because that's just not a feasible position. And that was after we hired some additional workers. Before then, it was like a scenario where it was like, I think it was something like four workers and like 12 managers in the department. And it didn't make a lot of sense. And another place where I worked, literally everybody has like senior in their title, like senior account director, executive customer relations manager. You're like, wow, all these titles sound really impressive. And then you go through it, it's like, how can everybody in a department be a senior account manager? Or how can everybody be a like an executive whatever? It's like if everybody's special, then no one's special, like that meme goes. And then you start to observe them and you're like, is there anything different that like the executive director does that's different from just the normal director or just the normal dude who brings coffee? And in a lot of cases, no. Sometimes there's a bit more responsibility. Sometimes you're expected to work kind of longer hours. But in my experience, I see like absolutely no relationship between job title and responsibility and pay for that matter. Like at one of the previous jobs I worked at, I was probably like, I don't know, junior or like mid level management, wherein I had people under me. I did like supplier management. I did like a lot of really like important, I did some client relations stuff. I did a lot of like really high level stuff, but I didn't even have senior in my title. I just had whatever my normal employee title was, even though I was doing stuff that was had much more responsibility attached to it and a lot more, I guess, prestige attached to it than some of the people who technically had the title of manager. And I know last time I was looking for jobs, there was one job that had senior in the job title and it paid less than the job I had without senior in the job title, actually significantly less. And then at like some groups, some companies, there'll be junior in the title, but it'll pay more than senior at another company. And sometimes they'll be like senior executive or like special or whatever. And there's absolutely like no relationship between the number of things they put in front of the title and how much it actually pays. Because that's what people sometimes do. So it kind of depends on where you are. In corporations, I think it's basically a way of determining pay scale for people who fulfill basically the same role. So like hence sales associate versus like senior sales associate, they technically kind of do the same thing, but one is just better at it so they get paid more, but their responsibilities like aren't fundamentally different. And in a lot of cases I feel they just kind of create extra high level management. Um like for instance, every department will have a vice president, and then they'll have an executive vice president, and then they'll have like a departmental CEO. There's like the CFO and the COO and the EIEIO and all those kind of things. So I think that's probably the most rational way of putting it. I think a lot of it is just obfuscation and to confuse people and to like if we invent enough job titles, then they won't be like directly comparable, and then people can't complain that they're getting paid different amounts. So it's like that I find at big companies. At small companies or like small businesses, there are no job titles. Everybody kind of just does everything. And you're kind of expected to just do anything regardless of your job title. And your pay is not really dependent upon your job title or, in my experience, your performance or the actual work you do. In my experience, small businesses just kind of pay you a flat amount and then you just do whatever they tell you to do. And then we have government, which works basically the same way as companies do, except they have like even more like layers of job titles and job titles of job titles and that kind of thing. Another thing that really makes me like question the value of these things is I know multiple people who have started their own companies solely for the sake of putting it on their resume. Like there were a number of people I knew back in university who started their own consulting companies, and maybe like two or three of them would get together. They'd like register as a company, they'd get a website, they'd like give themselves titles like I'm CEO, I'm vice president, I'm like chief analyst, stuff like that. And they wouldn't actually like get any customers. They just like promote their company on social media. And if anyone asked them about like who their clients were, they just say client client privilege. We can't tell anybody who we do work for. That would be violating our professional standards, which is kind of brilliant. And sometimes what they do is they get like some desperate not for profit to do like and do one job for them, so they could like with a straight face say, "Oh, we've had clients. We've had clients. They might not necessarily have been paying clients, but we've had them in the past." And sometimes if you think they're going to get wise to that, what you do is you get a bunch of people together. Like another person I know got like 5 people together, and then they like had like a board of directors, and they had like a CEO, and they had like multiple employees. And if you looked up the company on like LinkedIn or whatever, it would have like 10 employees, and they'd like make up a bunch of shit they did at it. Like I was the head of the sales for this company. I oversaw like a team of like 10 people or something, and it's just all smoke and mirrors. It's just something that's entirely made up to try to get around this stupid job title thing. So, what is kind of the point of this rant? What am I trying to say? Is that people are generally speaking full of shit when they describe what they do for a living, particularly on something like LinkedIn. The actual job description is normally bullshit. Their job title is bullshit and probably doesn't reflect what they do. It's there because it's just a necessary, unfortunate part of the game. Like when I was looking for work, I had to like really play up what I did, and I had to kind of draw inferences and be like, oh, this is kind of like that. So yeah, I kind of did that. Are you a manager? Sure, of course I'm a manager. I'm like I have a degree in management. That's what my degree is in, not something else. So hopefully that helps my fellows with inferiority complexes. God bless, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.